Okay, so take a good look at this. A robot hand spinning a pen. This, right here, is one of the hardest problems in all of AI. For years, the big challenge wasn't about building fancier robots. No, it was about figuring out how to teach them. It turns out the real bottleneck was the teacher.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to be looking at a pretty amazing new system called Ureka, which completely flips the script by making an AI the expert teacher.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with what's called the robot's reward problem. Then we'll introduce Ureka and see exactly how it works its magic. We'll look at some really jaw-dropping results, see how it actually partners up with humans, and finally talk about what this all means for the future of AI.
All right, first things first. To really get why Ureka is such a big deal, we have to understand the huge problem it was built to solve.
You know, at the very heart of training almost any AI is this thing called a reward function. Now think of it like this. It's not as simple as telling a dog to sit and giving it a treat. It's more like trying to write a super complex recipe in code, a recipe that rewards every tiny perfect movement, the exact tilt of a joint, the precise speed of a finger, all to guide the AI towards a really complex goal like spinning that pen. It's basically the rulebook for how the AI learns.
So how do the world's leading AI researchers actually write these super important rulebooks? You might think it's some advanced automated process, right? Well, a recent survey found that a staggering 92% of them are just relying on manual, painstaking trial and error. I mean, they're literally guessing, testing the code, and tweaking it over and over again, by hand.
And listen, this isn't some new problem we just stumbled upon. This quote comes from the absolute foundational textbooks of AI. It shows this has been a known, fundamental bottleneck in the field for decades. So for all the incredible progress we've made in AI, we were still handcrafting one of the most critical parts of the entire learning process.
But this is where the story takes a really exciting turn. So let's meet the solution to this decades-old problem, a brand new kind of AI reward engineer.
It's called Ureka, which is short for Evolution-Driven Universal Reward Kit for Agent. A bit of a mouthful, I know. But in simple terms, Ureka uses a large language model, like GPT-4, to not just write code, but to actually reason about it. It writes, tests, and improves these reward functions in a way that's a lot like how a human expert would do it, just way, way faster.
So how in the world does an AI write code to teach another AI better than a human can? Well, it all comes down to its really ingenious feedback loop.
At its core, Ureka runs on this brilliant engine. It's not just spitting out code one time. It starts by reading the robot's entire programming environment. Then it writes a possible reward function and tests it out in a simulation. But the really crucial part is what comes next. It reflects on the results to intelligently make the next version even better.
This whole process breaks down into 3 pretty clear steps. First, there's context. Ureka basically studies up on the environment, learning all the physics and variables at play. Then evolution. It writes a whole batch of different reward programs and sees which ones work best in a simulation. And finally, reflection. It analyzes all that performance data and gives itself targeted written feedback to smartly improve the code for the next round.
And this is what that evolution looks like in action. See, Ureka isn't just taking random shots in the dark. It's making specific, targeted edits, maybe changing a key variable, or tweaking the math behind a reward, or even adding a whole new piece of logic. It's a genuine design process, just fully automated by an AI.
Okay, that all sounds great on paper, but does it actually work? Let's look at what happened when Ureka went head-to-head with human experts.
The data is, well, it's pretty staggering. On this chart, you can see the performance of human experts is set to a baseline of 1.0. Now look at Ureka. Its performance is consistently and significantly higher. Meanwhile, the previous state-of-the-art AI method, something called L2R, couldn't even match what the humans were doing.
Let's break that down. Ureka beat the expert human-written rewards on 83% of the tasks they tested it on. And on average, it delivered a performance improvement of over 50%. But what's really fascinating is that it often did this by creating completely new reward functions, sometimes with logic that was the total opposite of human intuition. It was discovering brand new, more effective ways to teach. Which brings us right back to where we started. That incredibly complicated pen-spinning task, nobody had ever managed to solve it with this kind of learning before. It was Ureka's custom-designed reward function that finally cracked the code and made it possible.
But Ureka isn't just about replacing humans. It's also designed to be a really powerful collaborator, to create a genuine partnership between people and AI. There are two amazing ways this works. First, you can give Ureka a reward function that you've already started, even if it's not very good, and it'll take it and just make it dramatically better. And second, you can give it simple, plain English feedback, kind of like a coach talking to an athlete, to steer its design towards specific things, like making a robot walk more safely.
And that's not just a theory. The researchers actually did it. By giving Ureka's simple text feedback, the paper points out that it was able to generate a reward that taught a humanoid robot to walk with a safer and more stable gait. Users overwhelmingly preferred this, even if it was a little slower. This is a huge step for AI alignment, that critical challenge of making sure our AI systems are pursuing goals that are actually good for us.
So let's pull the camera back and look at the bigger picture. What does a tool like Ureka mean for the people who are actually building the next generation of AI? For developers, the takeaways are massive. First, it automates a job that was famously tedious and difficult. This frees up human engineers to think about the big, high-level goals instead of spending weeks just tuning code. It also gives us a powerful new way to align AI behavior using just natural language, which is incredible. And finally, you have to imagine this entire approach could be used for all sorts of other difficult design problems way beyond just robotics.
And that leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending question. For decades, humans have been the ones designing how machines learn. Now, we have an AI that can design its own superior learning curriculum. So if an AI can design its own learning process, what will it decide to learn next?
This is for entertainment purposes only.